Welcome back. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about springs, spring height, the spring table, and mainly focus on the right rear. So before we get started, let's take care of a little business here. If you could subscribe, hit the like button, notifications, if you could take care of that for me, then you'll be well informed when we do our next videos. So if we can get that taken care of, then we can get on to the action. Right rear springs. What is the big yoo-ha about right rear springs? Everybody's talking about going to 11-inch spring. Okay, I feel like for the most case, most people are doing it because their buddy John's doing it. So not good enough reason. We need to understand why we do what we do, when we do it, and the effects it's going to have on the car. That's why we do stuff. That's how guys that are good stay good, become good, stay good in their cars, because they understand what their cars are doing. They understand the changes they're making to their cars, how it's going to affect their cars. So let's look at spring tables. And we're going to try to cover a little bit of everything. I mean, like stock cars, B mods, A mods, sport mods, and late models and mod lights. Okay, so the coilover cars are going to be a little different because they not only affected by the spring height, they're affected by the pivot point. Okay, a B mod or a car with a rear spring that's on a slider would also, or a coilover left rear would be affected through the pivot points. Okay, but today's video we're basically going to discuss the effects of the spring height and how it affects weight transfer. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to tell you how to beat them mods. Okay, so hang out. So if we back up in time, we don't have to back up all the way to leaf springs, and there are some classes that have rules that say we must have the same height spring. In this case, we're not going to move weight transfer based on the spring table. We're going to move it based on where the weight is in the car. Okay, so if you fall into one of the classes where you have to run 16-inch springs or you have to run 13-inch springs, then you're just kind of stuck in that box. But if your class isn't calling out spring heights, or if it does call out, maybe you can run between a 16 and a 13, then I highly suggest you run a 16-inch spring on the left rear and a 13-inch spring on the right rear. For most cases today where cars are set up to do what they're doing, the weight transfer is very good for a 16, 13-inch spring. But right now, the trend, the craze, the monkey see, monkey do thing is 11-inch spring. Why are people going to 11-inch springs on the right rear? Well, it's to help induce the weight transfer. Okay, why do we need to do that more today than we did a few years ago? Because our cars are lighter today than they were. If you've raced for a while, you got to, and you guys that are not using your scales no more, you guys that have thrown your scales to the back closet, you need to dig them out and scale your car and understand the weight at each wheel and understand the total weight of the car, and comment in this video if this is not true. Your cars have lost weight in the last 5 years. Okay, a lot of weight in the last 5 years. And I feel like in some cases, almost 200 pounds. So 5 years ago, we'd be 2,450, we'd be 2,400 without a driver. And now we're 2,400 with a driver. And the average guy is going to weigh about 200 pounds. So if you don't feel like that's true, then comment, because I see it every day. We have this conversation. We've had this conversation every day for the last 5 years. So I know it's true. Our cars have gotten lighter. It's all come out of the spring box. It's all in the weight that's being transferred. Okay? So that's why we need a shorter spring. We don't need a shorter spring. We need to understand the weight transfer. a 16-inch, a 13-inch. So if you're in a stock car, street stock style car, stock car, IMCA, USRA, Neesmith, Crate Racing USA, you need to be on about a 225 to 250 pound spring. I'll put a link in to our Vari right rear spring. You can check that out. But you're going to need about that much spring rate, okay? And what we're looking for on the right rear is not body roll, it's tire load. So we're looking for maximum amount of tire load on the right rear, okay? Body roll in the past is kind of what started us to this path. We've seen cars rolling over on the right rear due to body roll, and it loaded up the right rear, and in some cases it made it very, very good. If you watch some of my videos, you know that I'll say that. A car on the right rear can be extremely good under certain conditions. The rest of the time it's not going to be fast. So if you want to induce body roll, thinking that this is going to increase some kind of tire load, it may or may not, but in most cases it will not. So don't look at pictures on exit and go, well, I want to be toting a tire, I want to be dragging a body, because that is not going to what's going to give you maximum load on the right rear. Spring compression, the spring being in the right spot, which in most cases it is, but spring compression will load the tire. Maintaining that spring compression throughout the corner is the responsibility of the driver and the right rear shock. So you will maybe get into that in later videos too, but that must also take place in order for the right rear really to work right. So what we're looking for is weight transfer in the corner. Left side weight's moving, the car's going in, we got lateral forces going, and the car's loading the right rear and the right rear spring. In the summertime, when it gets really, really hot, then we need to induce weight transfer because our speeds have slowed down. So our car's not transferring as much weight as it was earlier in the year. This is where the shorter spring comes into play because it allows that weight. So basically when I went from a 13 to 11, I lowered my spring got 2 inches shorter. I raised my weight table by 2 inches. So I moved my center of gravity up in the car, allowing it to move easier to the right rear. Okay. Sometimes when doing this, it's not just a straight spring change. It may take a spring rate increase in order to get the load back to where it needs to be. Okay, so it's a little more tricky, I feel like, in some cars, changing the height of the spring. Okay, so in our cars, we started doing this in the stock cars, and I think people like Paul at B&B offer this. I'm sure other cars do too, but offer a bar that can be bolted in to allow you to move your weight up. So we do move our weight up in the summertime, and we try to stay on the same spring height. We may have to do something with the spring rate, but we do try to stay on the same spring height because I feel like it's easier for the crew chiefs and drivers to understand versus switching spring heights. So if this is something you've done for a while, then you'll understand it. If it's new to you, it can be a little complicated sometimes. It can get a little complex in the amount of moisture available, the speed of the car. If you're not currently monitoring your lap times via GPS, if you're just monitoring your lap times, I mean, good for you if you're doing it. If you're using MyLap, and I suggest you screenshot your lap times after each heat race. Upload that to your team page, upload it to your lap timer. There's also a place in our team page, in our setup sheet, to upload those screenshots. So upload them, do the same for the features, and do the same for your competitors. So if somebody's beating you or finishing higher, upload their lap times. Okay, but what I really suggest you do is you get you a GPS timer. I'll put a link to our website for one of them in there. Team members, it's on the homepage under lap times. There's a link there you can go to see the GPS timers. You need to get one. You need to study your times. Okay, this will start telling you when it's time to maybe start moving your weight up or start going to a lower spring or a shorter spring. So the current buzz, that's what it's all about. I need 11-inch spring because Joe's got 11-inch spring. That's not always the case. Some cars do transfer weight better than others. And you need to understand how your car works. If you're out there on a 16-13 and your car is really flat, maybe the weight does need to be moved up in the car some. Maybe there's not enough weight in the car. I've worked with a few guys where we just have the weight too far forward in the car and it's just not transferring good to the right rear. So there are some things that can go on, but in the general car and the way we build cars today, a lot of the weight's being placed in the same spot. Car manufacturer says put weight here, put weight there, and the racers tend to do that, and the cars tend to respond the same. So in most cases, the weight transfer is pretty good in a lot of cars. Guys are using the same size fuel cells. Now, one thing we're not going to discuss today in weight transfer is the Panhard bar or the J bar that's used in a lot of cars, not used in a street stock car. That affects your weight transfer, okay? But we want to stay a little more neutral on that. For my team people, go to the Tech Info, the downloads, and there's a great little informational sheet on J bars, how to adjust them, move them up and down, what's doing what and when it's doing it. Go check that out. It's on our team website. If you're not familiar with our team page, go to our BSB Go Fast page, and I'll put a link below for that also. But go to our BSB page and read about the team deal, okay, so you can be better informed, because you're going to see that in our videos too. So back to the stock cars where we got a spring on top, and maybe one fixed cup, one swivel cup. This spring height is a major player for you guys, especially in the middle of the summer, especially if you're on a dirty or a slick type racetrack, sandy slick type racetrack. If you're not banging a cushion, then this is something you need to understand. If you are banging a cushion, so if you're like in the Midwest and you're in a modified and you're banging the cushion, raising your spring table is something you can do. I've seen it done both at the bird cage and at the top. Flipping your shock over, or your coil over shock if it's an A mod, or if it's a slider on a B mod, flipping it over so the spring is up, or vice versa. If you're on the slip, flipping it over so you're lowering down that spring table. You can move the spring table on a slider 2-3 inches. So up or down, depending on whether you're on a cushion or you're in the slick. It's just a handy little tool there you can use. Also, if you have an adjustable right rear, look and see where it's set. Mod Light guys, your pinch clamps, you can be set up on your pinch, and the car has a much higher roll center, center of gravity. So it does have to transfer through the pivot, but I've seen a lot of them cars where they're not moving around real well, or maybe they're constantly a little tight on entry, and a guy could shaft them, lower the pinch clamp down, move the spring up the coil over a little bit, move it up the shock a little, loosen the nut up. So if you move the pinch clamp down an inch, move the coil over kit nut up an inch. And this has got your roll, your center of gravity a little higher, so the car will roll a little easier. You may want to try to do it in half-inch increments. If you're on a 7-inch car and you feel like the car's not getting on the right front, this may be something you want to consult us with, or consult the chassis manufacturer with, because some of them cars are a little more, you need to be a little more cautious in a Mod Light because they can get on their tops. and you can dig a rut or something and flip them things over. So lowering your pinch clamps down and getting your center of gravity up in the car may not be the best thing to be doing. So go with caution and ease, but understand what you're doing when you're doing it. Okay? And if you don't understand, call me during the week. It's 620-326-3152 is our phone number. So just give us a ring and we'll discuss that. So if you have any questions, comment them in the comments or text me on Facebook. So, you know, keep on doing what you guys are doing. Keep on watching videos. We're going to keep on doing them. We're going to try to get a little bit better content going here for this season. And I'm going to put a video out to help you guys or to give you guys, so you guys can give me some ideas. So, all right. Thank you guys. It's good always seeing you, and God bless, and we love you. Talk to you later. Bye.